Well, hello and welcome to Producer Dan. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel today. So today I'm mastering a song that I've been mixing. I'm finally mastering it, or I have mastered it. I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm using Ozone 10, and as of the time of filming this video, Ozone 11 is available, but I've recently just last year upgraded from 7 to 10, and I'm not interested in spending another $349 to upgrade. And it's not necessary either. Ozone 10 is a mastering suite, and it has all of the necessary core modules to master a song. This is the standard version, so it doesn't have impact or the stabilizer or some of the other kind of one-button wizardry that they're offering now, which is fine, and I will probably upgrade to 11 next year, but it's not necessary. So we'll be using the core modules to master the song, and if you have Ozone 9, 10, or 11, this will be relevant to you. Ozone 10 comes with the Mastering Assistant, which is very AI based, and you can tell this Mastering Assistant to master your song and compare it to a reference track you provide, or it will sense the genre and master it for you and give you a nice product based on other, thousands of other songs in that genre. So that can be hit or miss. I don't think it does a lot of problem solving. And for me, I want to understand what I'm doing. So what I think I'll do is at the end of the video, I'll have Master Assistant master the song on its own and see what it does in compared to what I did with the song. All right? All right, so let's take a look. I'm mastering a song called No Words by Vicky Andres. 2 audio tracks. One track is for a reference track, and I've chosen Adele's Rolling in the Deep. It just made a nice reference. Very strong female singer-songwriter. I've turned it down just a little bit to some volume matches. And you can see my track below it is very quiet. So the first thing I did was make some cuts into the track and make some slight volume adjustments. I have boosted this very, very quiet beginning 2 dB. So you want to make sure your transitions are smooth and that you put in a fade. All right, so I opened up the Ozone on the No Words track, and I recommend that you do this in this kind of environment, not on your project master fader, because Ozone is very CPU intensive. It takes a lot of CPU. So this is what it looks like, and here are the different modules on the top, and you can see I'm using the Match EQ, Equalizer, Dynamic EQ, Exciter, Imager, Dynamics, the Vintage Compressor, the Maximizer. And here's a list of everything that comes with Ozone 10 standard. So the first thing that I do is turn on the Maximizer. The Maximizer is at the very end of the chain, and this is just to get the volume up so I'm listening to a similar volume as the reference track. So here's the volume without it. Okay, so you can see I have turned up our input all the way. Instead of using the limiter to make it louder, I just turn this part up, and then we'll have our limiter do the rest. So with the Maximizer, you can enter the amount of LUFS, the loudness that you want to master the song at. You can enter whatever amount you want. I put 12. streaming services like Spotify will normalize your song to 14. So this is 2 decibels above that. But I'll show you how to do this. I'll just put this back to here, and we'll ask Ozone to learn the threshold to keep the song at 12 LUFS. And you want to do this at the loudest part of your song. Okay, and there we are. So it's set the threshold to 3.4 dB. If we come over here, you have different IRCs. That stands for Intelligent Release Control. So the IRCLL, that's for low latency, and that gives you kind of smooth and thick, rich sound. Now IRC1 is the same as IRCLL, but it uses more CPU. And number 2, this is for clear and sharp limiting and preserves peaks. You have different choices here for IRC3, balanced, pumping, crisp, and clipping. So audition those to your genre, to your song, and see if it applies to your song. And the IRC4, classic, modern, or transient. So, and this is the most CPU intensive. So, and the character knob just sets the release time, whether this is a fast release or a slow release. Now, soft clip is something new for Ozone 10. Soft clip is a way of getting your mix louder. It will go in and study those clipping transients and convert them into usable harmonics. And it comes in light, medium, and hard. So this is more of a mix knob. So you can mix this sound into your mix. And each of these have their own different characteristics. Light being very smooth, medium, moderate, and hard. It's going to give you very aggressive harmonics that you can mix into your sound. And that might sound good depending on the genre, whether it's hip hop or metal. But I've put in just a little bit at 24% on the low setting. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the match EQ setting. So match EQ lets you match the different EQ curves of your song up against a reference track. And so I've chosen, again, Adele's Rolling in the Deep, and the gold track is Rolling in the Deep, and the blue track is our song. So I'm going to clear this out and show you how to do this. So let's come to the reference track. I have loaded that into Ozone, Rolling in the Deep, and you can add as many as you want, actually. You can add several different reference tracks. And I use this part of the song. It does separate the song into pieces, and this is the very loudest and last part of the song. I won't play it because of the copyright, but I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and capture that EQ curve for that last part of the song. Okay, so we've captured the EQ curve for that song. I'm going to turn this part down for now, and I'll explain that a little later. Now let's capture our song. Okay, I'm going to stop that. And so you can see the EQ curves are similar, but Rolling in the Deep has kind of a little larger low end than our song. And the EQ curve here at the high end is a little different. The mid looks almost the same. So down here in the fine tune area, you can bring your song up to match the reference track as close as you want. I'll play that for you now. You see how the low end is closer now, and I brought in 52%. Obviously, it's making very kind of jagged decisions as to how to make those match perfectly, but we can smooth that line out. Well, it came in from behind, and it was the last thing. And so our low end is now much closer and our high end is much closer. So I feel pretty good about this setting. So that is the match EQ, and I really think it's great. It makes it a lot easier to match your EQ curve to an established song, a good mix, something that you know is a good mix in the same genre. So I'm very happy with that. So now let's move on to the equalizer. It's the next module that I put in the chain. And what I love about this equalizer is it has mid-side processing. So let's take a look at what we've done in the stereo. You can see I've done just a little bit of reductive EQ here in the very, very, very sub frequencies up to 30 hertz. And that's done in the stereo field. But with this, you can go in and do some strategic EQ moves on the mid section or just on the sides. So in the middle, you can see, again, it's just the 30 hertz high pass. And on the sides, I've removed more of the low frequencies, up to 120 hertz, just so most of my lower frequencies are coming straight down the center and not on the sides. I'm saving the sides for the mid frequencies and the high frequencies. The shimmer will be off to the sides. And this is where you can introduce up to 8 different frequency corrections. So if you press the Option button and move your cursor around, you can do a frequency. This is kind of a spotlight. Okay, so that is the EQ, and they give you 2 of these EQs to use in the chain if you want. So I'm using 1. Next, it's the dynamic EQ. You can see I've made a correction here. In the loud part of the song, there's kind of a harsh, maybe 1 or 2 harsh moments in the vocal that pops out. And I noticed it in one of my drafts that I came across. So I wanted to make this one correction here with this dynamic EQ. When she says the word came, well, it came in from, it's very harsh and you can see it pop up. Well, it came in from. It's right here. So you saw that pop up. Well, I have made this so when that particular frequency crosses that threshold, the EQ will make a slight dip of almost 1 dB. But it only does it a few times during the song to keep that harsh frequency out. By the way, this actually works in the opposite direction. Like, let's say there was a bass frequency that wasn't quite loud enough. I could choose to make that every time the bass frequency dropped below the threshold, I could have it, the volume increase. So it works in both directions, either up or down. And you have your stereo, mid-side, left and right choices as well. So that's the dynamic EQ, and there's a lot of different uses for that, but that's how I've used it in this song. Now let's go on to the exciter. Now the exciter adds different types of saturation to the different bands in the song, the different frequency bands. I'm going to remove these. So let's say we start from a blank slate and we know we want to have 4 separate bands to work with. We want to use all 4 of the bands down here. So you just hover here, you press 1, you press the plus sign, you press the plus sign. So now we have all 4 bands, and I'm going to ask Ozone to learn the different band separations for this particular song.
Well, it came in from behind.
There. And it's pretty consistent. I've asked it to do that in a couple of the modules, and it always comes up with the same separation. So now that we have these separated, I'm going to show you what I've done. There's different types of saturation: analog, retro, tape, tube, warm, triode, and dual triode. I kind of auditioned each one, and I really like the way the tape saturation sound, particularly on this low end. I wanted to add a little fuzz to the low end. So I'll solo this and show you what this sounds like in this low frequency. So we can choose the amount of the saturation, and we can choose how much we want to mix that in. So I'm going to jack it up so you can hear the texture of this particular saturation. And you also see how it affects the signal there. So obviously that's very severe, but you can understand what it might sound like in small amounts when you add that to this low frequency. Obviously not that much. And then you can control how much of that you want in the mix. So, okay, I think that's about where we had it. If you like a certain type of saturation on a higher frequency, you can mix and match them. So also you can link the bands. Once you've made your decision, you can link all the bands, and then when you move them, they'll move all at once together. Also, if you hold your command key down while you're making the adjustments, you can go in very small increments. I wanted the saturation to have a consistent sound across all the frequencies, so I've opted to add just a little bit in these higher frequencies, just so it would be consistent. You don't have to use all 4 bands. You can use 1 or 2. And also, you can see that you have a mid-side control here as well, which I think is very useful. Let's move on to the imager, and I'll show you how I've separated some of the frequencies or spread them out. So the imager is excellent for, like I was just saying, you can manipulate certain frequencies to either be very wide or very narrow. So I've chosen to make my low frequencies straight down the center, and I'll show you how that looks. We'll solo the bass. And you can move this up and down. We can either spread out the bass. It's not going to go too far because we've kind of funneled it down the center with our other plugins. And to narrow it, we pull that down. You can see we can make that very, very narrow. Now I haven't gone quite that narrow because I have some toms that I can hear in that frequency range. And the toms are going left to right, so I don't feel right about pulling it all the way down. I want there to be some give left and right for the low frequencies that are involved with my toms. As you can see, I've made kind of a diagonal line. So my low frequencies will be down the center. My low mids will kind of have free reign. I haven't done anything, so they're right in the center. These are my low mids. And then my high mids, I've widened out just a little bit. And my very, very highs, these here at the end, I've put out a little further in the width. Okay. Something else this has is a stereo eyes. If you've got something in mono, you can shift the stereo field just a little bit so it does kind of take a mono signal and widen it out to a stereo sound just by taking them out of phase a few milliseconds. This is the recover sides feature. Even though you can kind of funnel things down the center, you can recover your sides if you want to. All right, so let's unsolo this. And we'll move into our next module, which is Dynamics. This is the Dynamics Multiband Compressor. And I've used it in two places here. First of all, you set the learn feature where it learns its sections, which I've done. And here is the low end section. You can tell the ones that I've used because there's a color here. I have settings here, and I have this one on as well. You turn them on and off by this button, and you solo them with this button. So let's listen to the compression that I've done in these lower frequencies. Okay, so you can see I've done this just to even out the low end, particularly in this part of the song where it's bass heavy. So a little bit of gain reduction on those louder frequencies. You could add some gain or take away some gain in this area. So because my kick drum and toms also can be heard in this frequency zone, I want to make sure I don't destroy any transients. So I'll have a slow attack on that. So it allows those transients to come through, but then makes its gain reduction and kind of gives that a nice sustain. But I also do a quick release because I want it to be ready for those next transients as well. So it's only going to be held down when that thicker bass part is present. Without. Okay, and I've also used this frequency band as well, because if you remember, that's where that harshness was. I just wanted to put just a little bit of control there. Now this is tricky because I don't want to destroy any drum transients, but I also don't want any of that harshness to come through. So I have a rather fast attack on that, but it's not a very heavy compression. You can see it only comes down just a little bit in gain reduction. So that is the Dynamics module, the multiband compressor. Let's move on to the Vintage compressor. First of all, it has a stereo and mid-side capability. And also, this compressor allows you to remove any frequencies that you want to exclude. So since I've already done the work on my low end, I don't want to do any more compression on that low end. So this compressor will not work on anything below this slope. And you can do the same for the high end as well. And you have 3 different settings here: sharp, balanced, and smooth. So I do want this to be smooth. This is not a heavy transient song. This part has a few drums in it, but for the most part, throughout the song, it doesn't. And I think we haven't compressed any of the transients. We haven't lost anything yet. I've got a low ratio, a medium attack, and a medium release. I guess I just want this to bounce and kind of even out this section of the song.
Well, it came in from
So you can see it's doing very little. I just felt better about having one more line of defense in this area. And again, you can do stereo or mid-side compression. And so we're back at the maximizer, again, the last link in the chain. Let's see how we're doing as far as volume goes after all the changes we've made.
Well, it came in from behind, and it was the last thing on.
So it looks like I can pull this down just a little further, just to get it, as much out of it as we can.
Well, it came in from behind, and it was the last thing on my mind at the time. Dear,
Okay, so you can see it's just touching there. It's just taking care of those drum transients. All right, so I'm going to save this version. And I'm going to create a new version. I'm just going to save this as Master Assistant. So now I'm going to just erase everything I've done. And let's go ahead and open the Master Assistant. And I'm going to play it this last chorus again.
well, it came in from behind, and it was the last thing on my mind. Time.
Okay, so it's working on it now. And so you can see it has correctly classified this song as rock. And this is the EQ curve that most rock songs have generally. And if we go to the detailed version, we can look at the window and see what it has done. This is the equalizer. This is the imager. This is the dynamic EQ. It has made some corrections here. And this is the maximizer settings. So let's listen to what the song sounds like.
Well, it came in from behind, and it was the last thing on my mind at the time. Dear,
Okay, I think that sounds kind of nice. I'm curious to see, yeah, made some deductions right here. That harsh frequency, it's also kind of controlled this part of the song. It's found some problem frequencies here. And let's see what else. That's the dynamic EQ. Here's the imager. It has narrowed the bass just a little bit, not as much as I have done, and it left the top end alone. So it's almost what I did here. And let's see, what else? The equalizer. This looks like the corrections that we made in the EQ match to match the Adele song. So if you knew nothing about mastering and needed to master your song, you could do this, and you can also do this to learn what these modules will do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. If you lasted this long, thanks for hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care.